You're listening to Science for Soundness, the podcast. This is not your usual podcast. This is a journey, and as with any journey, I don't know yet where this one is going. If anything, I'm hoping to inspire you to take the first step, even if it's into the unknown, even if you don't know where you're going and you do it scared. Hi, I'm Steffi. I'm an equine scientist and equine therapist. I've made it my mission to support horse owners on their individual journey of horse-human connection and personal growth. I want you to know that I'm with you on this one. Think of me as a friendly voice, a reminder to stay the course, to keep going, keep listening to yourself and to your horse, even when the going gets tough. Let's do this. Welcome to today's episode titled, When You Don't Know What's Next, but you know you can't stay where you are. Because I'm pretty sure you, as much as I, have experienced these moments. There are moments in life when we find ourselves at a crossroads, where the path that we've been on and we felt so safe and sure on all this time suddenly no longer fits, where the space we're in begins to feel too small, almost like shedding a skin. There is something inside of us that says, I don't know where I'm going, but I can't stay here anymore. It is a feeling many of us know deeply, I'm pretty sure, and yet it can be incredibly disorienting because we are taught to value clarity, certainty, and control. But this moment, this space in between, that's anything but. It is not a mistake though. It is a vital part of the nervous system's process of transformation. I want to talk about why. Why does the nervous system cling to tension and chaos when all we want is softness and ease and flow? So from a polyvagal perspective, our nervous system is always scanning for cues of safety or danger or threat. Not logically, so it's not like you're thinking about it, but this happens neuroceptively. This means our body makes decisions before our brain catches up. And if you've lived in a state of chaos, unpredictability, or tension for a long or prolonged time even, then this starts to feel familiar. And what's familiar begins to feel safe, even if it's not. I know, this one's mind-boggling. This is one of the hardest parts of healing. Because even when you consciously want to feel better, calmer, and more connected, your nervous system might still equate calm with danger. And this is where things get interesting. Our nervous system is like a well-trained guard. It's constantly on the lookout, scanning for potential threats. But sometimes it gets stuck in that protective state. And over time, it becomes habitual to be in a state of high alert. And it might be high levels of stress. It might be overthinking or even constant busyness. Hands up if you're guilty of that one. And I don't mean guilty in a shamey kind of way. We associate this hypervigilance with safety. And that's because for a long, long time, our body had to stay alert in order to survive. Imagine living with constant tension, like years. Your body gets used to that. It starts to feel normal, even if it's uncomfortable. Now, when you're finally able to rest, or a moment of calm arises, your nervous system may react as if it's unsafe. This is your survival mechanisms kicking in, trying to keep you from danger. But the danger is no longer external, it is internal. It's the discomfort of the stillness. It's the challenge of being okay with uncertainty. And this can feel incredibly frustrating when we consciously want to change, but our body isn't quite ready to let go, as if you're stuck in a loop. It is as if our body is fighting against us. And the familiar tension feels like the safest place to be, even though it's no longer the case. But this is exactly where the rewiring needs to happen, because change is not always perceived as safe by the body. This is where the journey of transformation begins. So let's dive into the biology behind it. Why does change feel unsafe? Your nervous system has one simple job, we just discussed it, to keep you alive and safe. It doesn't necessarily care if you're happy or fulfilled. It just wants to make sure you survive. It's literally that. So when you've spent time in high stress, constant worry, or emotional chaos, your nervous system gets used to that. It learns that this state is safe, air quotes, because it's familiar, even if it's uncomfortable. And when you try to step out of this pattern, it can feel like you're stepping into the unknown. And that can feel really unsafe. So here's what's going on inside you. Your nervous system has 3 key ways of responding to stress, and they all show up in different situations. We have the fight or flight response. When you're in sympathetic activation, this is your body's way of getting ready to deal with danger. You might feel more alert, energetic, or even anxious as your body prepares to either face a threat or run away from it. It's your survival mode. When we're in this state too often, it can leave us feeling tense, overwhelmed, or like we're constantly in a rush. Then we have the rest and digest response, which is the state we want to move into when we're ready to relax, recharge, and rebuild. But after being in high stress modes for so long, it can feel like a foreign place. Your body might struggle to slow down, and you might feel like you should be doing something, literally anything, instead of simply resting. And I personally know this space very well because I will find things to keep me busy rather than sitting down, until I noticed this is what's happening. My body is trying to keep me alive, and I'm actively rewiring what was going on. So learning to switch to this state is a process, but it's essential for healing and feeling truly connected to yourself. Then we have the freeze or shutdown response, which is literally the opposite of fight or flight. So when fight or flight wasn't a viable option, your nervous system will prefer this response. This is when things get too overwhelming or feel out of control, like you cannot cope with a situation, and fight or flight are no option. Your body then might go into a state of shutdown. You might feel disconnected, numb, or like you just going through the motions. It's as if your body says, I cannot handle this and I'm going to stop trying. And this state can feel like an emotional and physical freeze. But it's a protective mechanism designed to help you survive when you feel there is no way out. Now, why does this matter when you're trying to make a change in your life? Because even when you want to step into a new version of yourself, one with more boundaries, one with more peace or more stillness or softness even, your nervous system might resist. It's not because you're not capable or worthy, and that's really important. It is because your body is trying to protect you from something unfamiliar. So the new you, the version of yourself that you want to step into, might feel risky to your system, even if it's exactly what you need. Let that one sink in. But here's the powerful part. You can teach your nervous system a new way. It's not about forcing yourself to change overnight or expecting everything to be perfect. It's about gently, step by step, showing your body that it's safe to shift from the old patterns into the new. And this is where the true transformation happens. It's a process. So let's talk about the in-between space, because what needs to happen is dissolving before we can start with the rebuilding. So if you're in that in-between space right now, if the old path feels like it's crumbling beneath you, but the new one hasn't revealed itself yet, you are in the neurobiological space of repatterning. This is where your old survival responses begin to lose their grip. It's where your nervous system is learning, I can be safe in stillness. I can exist without performing. I can rest and still be worthy, which was one of mine. It's uncomfortable because the scaffolding is gone, but that space, you guys, that's where the possibility lives. Think of this like being in the middle of a storm. The winds are howling and the old structures around you are shaking or even crumbling, it's unnerving, honestly. Yet that space between the old and the new is where the true transformation happens. This is where your nervous system begins to release the grip of survival mechanisms. You're no longer tethered to the old ways of doing things, but you haven't yet fully embraced the new. When you're in the in-between space, it's natural to feel uncomfortable. The familiar isn't there to hold you up, and the new hasn't yet materialized. But here's the thing. This is the space where growth is happening beneath the surface. Your body is literally rewiring itself, learning to let go of the old survival patterns and integrate new ways of being. The nervous system is learning that you can rest without fear of collapse. You can pause without triggering the need to fix everything. It's like a caterpillar before emerging as a butterfly. This in-between is the essential phase. It's where the reformation of new patterns happens. Even though it may feel like everything is falling apart, if you're feeling this right now, you are actually in a deep transformative process, one that will bring you closer to alignment with your true self, I assure you. Let's talk about tangible signs you're breaking a survival pattern. Because sometimes it doesn't look heroic or exciting. Sometimes it looks like saying no when you'd usually say yes to keep someone else happy. It looks like pausing before reacting so that you can act instead of react. It looks like letting yourself rest without guilt. Take a book or just a cup of coffee or tea and sit outside in your garden or on your balcony or even on your sofa. Just enjoy it because you can. Feeling grief without rushing to fix it. Let yourself experience that. Allow yourself to cry and to grieve without feeling like you need to stop that immediately and continue doing whatever it is that keeps you busy. And also letting uncertainty be there, because you don't always know what's going to happen next. Control is an illusion. So each of these moments, tiny as they might seem, send a new signal to your nervous system. I am safe to do things differently now. And that changes everything. These moments, as small as they may seem, are actually profound signals to your nervous system that it's okay to do things differently. It's in these seemingly insignificant choices where the true rewiring happens. Let's talk about each one of these signals in more detail. Saying no when you'd usually say yes. If you are someone who has spent a lot of time people-pleasing, hands up my friends, always prioritizing others' needs over your own, saying no can feel like a monumental shift. And I am not going to lie to you, this is me. Saying no to someone, setting a boundary, wow, felt like my life was going to stop. It's not just about refusing a request. It is about setting a boundary that honors your own needs. So this moment communicates to your nervous system that you can assert your own boundaries and still be alive and safe, even if it feels uncomfortable at first. And I'm not gonna lie, I felt like I was about to die every time I did that. So it took practice. That's what I want to say here. It is practice. So it's not a massive, monumental shift at first. Pausing before reacting. So often we react automatically to situations, whether it's a difficult conversation, a stressful moment. Simply pausing before reacting doesn't mean you ignore your emotions, but it gives you the space to assess the situation and then respond intentionally. So this act of conscious pause is a subtle but powerful way to teach your nervous system that it doesn't need to be in a state of constant fight or flight and rushing into reaction. So remember, pause and then act instead of react. Talk about letting yourself rest without guilt. I am definitely guilty of that one. And that is in air quotes as well. Rest, especially for those of us with a history of pushing through or overworking, can feel like a betrayal. But allowing yourself to rest without guilt is an act of kindness to yourself and to your nervous system. It signals to your body that it's okay to take a break and still be worthy of love and productivity. You're not lazy or weak, all air quotes. You are allowing yourself to regenerate. And that is something I wish we would talk about more, because that regeneration phase is so freaking essential for everything that we do, because if we don't give ourselves a pause, we cannot be productive. So, this idea of being productive and constantly busy is literally just us in a survival state. There, I said it. Next up, feeling grief without rushing to fix it. Wow. I mean, we often rush to alleviate discomfort for others and also for ourselves, especially grief, because it feels like a threat to our safety or emotional well-being. But when you sit with grief rather than rushing to fix it, air quotes, you allow your body to process the emotions in a more organic way. This teaches your nervous system that emotions, even painful ones, don't need to be avoided. They can be felt, processed, and integrated, and you grow more resilient from all of this. Letting uncertainty be there. Uncertainty. I mean, what is certain? Uncertainty is often viewed as something to fear, but allowing uncertainty to simply exist without trying to force clarity or control opens up a space of trust and acceptance. And I'm leaning into this at the moment. It signals to your nervous system that it doesn't need to cling to certainty in order to feel safe. In fact, it can rest in the ambiguity of life. These small moments might all feel very small, but they are, trust me, major shifts in how your nervous system interprets the world around you. Each time you say no, pause before reacting, or allow yourself to rest, you're actively repatterning your body's response to life. Let that one sink in. You are telling your nervous system that it's safe to shift from the survival state to a state of true connection and presence. I want to talk about a personal experience. When I was in the thick of survival, I didn't even know it, I have to admit. I thought I was just being strong, productive, or passionate even. So I gave it all these labels. But underneath, deep down, I was gripping, bracing, and pushing, and forcing things. Stillness felt dangerous, and softness felt almost weak. And when life asked me to pause, to actually be with myself, when I was forced to slow down and listen to my body, it felt like everything might fall apart. But here I am, telling you that it didn't. Instead, I began to unravel what wasn't mine. And I've got goosebumps telling you this. I began to feel me again, underneath all the tension. And that's what led me here, to the work that I do now, to the deep presence with horses, to understanding how safety transforms everything. I want to share a bit more about that experience with you, because I know many of you can relate. For a long time, I have lived in a state of high alert. Everything felt urgent, and there was always something to do. Busyness, right? So when I finally reached a point where I couldn't continue at that pace, I had no idea how to slow down. My body was still in go mode. My nervous system was conditioned to stay in that survival state. And the idea of resting or being still felt terrifying. And I even had to undergo 2 surgeries to slam the brakes. But over time, and processing all of this, I began to trust that stillness was not a threat. It was a place of healing, in fact. It was there in those quiet moments of self-reflection where I found my true strength. And it was in this space that I began to connect more deeply with my horses and, most importantly, with myself. So, my friends, rewiring starts small. Don't wait for a moment that forces you in your tracks, like stop slamming the brakes and stopping you in your tracks. Don't wait for that to happen. It doesn't have to be that way. You don't need to know all the answers right now, and you also don't need to have a perfect plan, because all you need is presence. I want you to try this. Notice what your body is doing right now. Are your shoulders up? Are they maybe hunched forward a bit? Is your jaw tight? Is your breath shallow or deep? And then just think, soften by 5%. I'm not asking you to let go of 100% of tension here, just 5%. Soften by 5%. What happens? I mean, doesn't that just feel so much better and less constricting already? And then ask yourself, what am I seeking through this tension? What does my nervous system think it's protecting me from? Because sometimes if you ask yourself these kind of questions, you'll be surprised what comes up, and trust the first intuitive response that you're thinking or even saying out loud, because that will be right. That moment of awareness, that is your portal. Start small, my friends. If your body is holding tension, gently check in with it. Are you holding your shoulders up? Are they hunched forward? Tightening your jaw, holding your breath. That's one of my favorites. These are all signs that your body is bracing for something. But by softening by just 5%, you're not demanding your body to completely relax, which can feel overwhelming. Instead, you're inviting it to ease just a little bit. This small shift is significant because it shows your nervous system that it's safe to let go, even if it's just for a moment. Like, don't be hard on yourself. Asking yourself what your body is trying to protect you from is a key part of this process. Often the tension we carry is an unconscious response to something we perceive as a threat. So it could be an old pattern or memory that's no longer relevant. And by gently questioning what the tension is trying to protect you from, you then begin to create a dialogue with your nervous system, offering it an opportunity to reassess the response. Why does this work matter, you might wonder? Because when we stay stuck in tension, we pass it on. We pass it on to our horses, to our relationships. So it could be friends, family, partners, work colleagues. I even dream about this stuff. So that is huge. But when we shift, even subtly, even those 5%, we then create a ripple effect that is felt beyond us. And this is why I teach polyvagal-informed horsemanship, because it's not just about technique, how to handle your horse. No, it's about who we become when we are safe. When we begin to shift our own nervous system state out of survival mode, it doesn't just impact our own lives, it ripples out into everything we do, touch, say, literally everything. So that is powerful. However, if we stay in a constant state of tension, we pass that energy on to our horses, our relationships, and even the work we do. But when we make the effort to shift, even slightly, we create a safe space for those around us to do the same and to soften together with us. This is why I'm so passionate about my work. It's not just about learning techniques to improve our relationships with horses. It's about embodying a state of safety, presence, and connection. When we learn to regulate our own nervous system, we naturally create an environment where our horses, our loved ones, and everything else can thrive. So if this resonates, then you will love the training I created called Breaking the Survival Loop. It is part of my Inner Circle membership, but you can also get it outside of it. And it was made for moments like this. Moments when you are in the middle. Moments when your nervous system is trying to choose differently. Moments when you're ready for real change, but need support to stay with it. If you've been living in tension for a long time, if you've outgrown the old ways but don't quite see the new, if your nervous system is whispering, please, not this again, then maybe it's time to let it be different. And the Inner Circle is a space exactly for that. for rewiring, for rest, for real connection. Use the code podcast and get 10 euros off your first month if you choose the monthly subscription. And remember, if you feel the pull, you're ready. Let's do this together. I'll see you next time. Hi friend, I hope you found something in this episode that resonated with you. I'm beyond grateful that you hung out with me today for a little while, and I do hope that you come along for the ride. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast, and if you feel like it, leave a review. Your feedback is greatly appreciated. If you have any questions or would like me to talk about a certain topic, check the show notes for ways to get in touch. I can't wait for next time. You got this.